and welcome to CX Files. I'm your host, Mark Hillary. In this edition of the podcast, I'm really pleased to be speaking with one of the most important experts and advisors on customer experience strategy globally, Shep Hyken. Shep is a best-selling author, trainer, advisor, speaker, and generally all-round expert on CX. He advises several Fortune 100 companies and has been focused on this for over 35 years now. Anyone that searched LinkedIn or Twitter for information on CX will know Shep because he's a very active publisher. In our conversation, we covered a wide range of topics from the customer journey, the changing nature of the agent job, tools that can help to improve CX, and how executives can focus on productivity in addition to improving CX. I'm sure you're going to enjoy this, so let's go straight to the interview now. Okay, so the first question I had was around the customer journey, and if we compare the customer journey today to maybe a decade ago, it's far more complex. But what would you think are the main effects? What is the main change that we've seen because of this complexity?
So the complexity isn't that the customer's journey is more complex. It's that there's so many different journeys the customer can take today because of technology. What's happened is, and I'll give you an example, it used to be very linear where it's like, well, this is the typical way a customer does business with us. And then you could set up a second journey for this is what a repeat customer looks like. A third journey might be here's what happens when the customer has a problem. This is the journey that they experience. And really that's all the journey is simply the experience plotted out step by step, kind of like a process that the customer goes through as they're doing business with you. But today, with the digital world and the multiple channels that customers can interact with a company on, it just, even though the journey appears to the customer to be the same, it's a little bit more complicated on the inside because we need to make sure that we manage the experiences on these different channels to meet the brand promise or the reputation that we're trying to create with the original channel. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And then given that complication then, especially on the inside of the organization, how does that change the role of the agents themselves then?
Well, I mean, so here's the thing. There's different expectations with the different channels. So if somebody calls, their expectation is ideally they're going to get through minimal hold time. They're going to talk to a representative that's knowledgeable, not just about the information that the customer is asking for, but even about the customer. That's something that's new too. That data is there. In a support center, you've got, a knowledgeable agent is no longer just knowledgeable about the content that they're being asked about. They're also knowledgeable about the customer. You should be able to see, the history, the buying history, the support history that's already there. And by doing that, you can have a better, more relevant conversation. You're not going to ask customers to repeat things that they may have asked on the last call or the call before. And customers today expect that the person they talk to is going to be the only person they have to talk to. So that's ideal. Now let's talk about a different channel. Somebody comes in on a chat. Maybe it's a chat bot that's answering initially, trying to determine whether or not this is a request that can be handled by a machine or flipped over, hopefully seamlessly, to a human. And I think the nice thing about the chat bot is that it's real time, and customers, their expectation is it's going to happen. They're going to get a resolution really quickly. If an email is sent, the expectation is what's a reasonable time to return an email. According to the American Express Global Barometer, I guess it came out about a year and a half or so ago. They said that 25% of customers expect an email to be responded to or a social media post to be responded to in under an hour. I just recently did a presentation and I surveyed the audience. What's reasonable to you? And one person said 5 minutes and another person said an hour. And I think, okay, that's fine. Did anybody have a different expectation or goal? And nobody raised their hand. I said, well, the reality of it is the email takes approximately 9 hours. A tweet takes 7 hours, and Facebook takes about 3.5, depending upon all these different surveys that you read. So therein lies the complication, is somebody's coming in on a different channel. Their expectation might be a little bit different than if they picked up the phone and made a call. So they realize if they send an email, they don't expect the response within seconds. Although it'd be a pretty nice thing if it happened.
Yeah, absolutely. And you mentioned there that the agents are expected to know so much more about the customer, and that almost sounds like a sales function or marketing. I mean, have you seen any of the companies that you're working with? Are they blending all of these customer-facing functions like sales, marketing, and customer service together?
Yes, yes, and yes. So, and because it makes it easy, and here's why. When you have a well-trained support person, the support person can take a look at this person's history, and based on that history, they should make suggestions on better ways to utilize the product, perhaps additional product they might, want to make, the product work. I mean, there's the upsell is what I'll refer to it as. Is most people think of an upsell as, well, they're trying to get me to buy more. Would you like fries with that, hamburger and soda? By the way, if you go to McDonald's and you don't buy the fries, it's really a disservice if they didn't remind you they had those delicious fries. But that's exactly the way it is in business. If you do not give them the ethical and proper upsell to create a better experience for your customer, you are doing a disservice. In other words, it's bad customer service not to suggest other products. And your support people on the front line are best equipped to do that.
Mm-hmm. And do they need more tools to be able to do that? Things like decision support or AI, machine learning, these kind of things?
Well, we'll talk about AI as far as that is concerned. If you can bring in the AI function. So there were two questions there. The first is, let's talk. Well, the software that a support center is using will allow, depending upon which software you have, the customer to see the support rep to see the entire view of the customer. They'll be able to see the history, the buying patterns. They should be able to see everything. And if they're properly trained, they should be able to make the right suggestion. I'll give you an example of this. I use AT&T as my phone support, or as my mobile phone, and I called for a question about something related to my international plan, and I asked the rep about it, and then the rep said, by the way, I'm noticing something here, and she was looking at my call patterns with my office and people here that are on the same account. She said, can I make a suggestion that you switch to a different plan? Now, I called about what my price was going to be when I went international. I did not call to switch my entire plan. But she told me what plan I was on, what I was paying, and what plan might be better suited for me. And guess what? By the end of the call, I had switched. That's not what I called for, but she gave me a great service experience, a great customer experience by recommending something that would be better for me. So I think that's a pretty powerful position to be in, and when you do that, it endears the customer to a company. It creates a little bit more confidence, and most important, it creates trust. So that's the first thing. The second thing is you talked about AI and the machine. This is wonderful technology, and if you can bring AI in to analyze your data, the customer data, then you can create what is known as predictive analytics. In other words, you analyze the data from the past and make predictions about this customer in the future. And what are you basing those predictions on? Like this customer that have the same buying patterns, the same questions, and based on all that information, the computer can very accurately suggest other products and predict what the next customer's question is even going to be. So that's a powerful way to use AI. Another way to use AI, and I've been talking about this now for about almost 1 year. It'll be a year a year this month, because it was a year ago in March that I saw Ginny Romedy, who's the CEO of IBM, who has Watson, and that's their AI, artificial intelligence, and all the predictive analytics and everything they're doing is Watson. She said that if you reverse IA, it becomes IA, and that's for the intelligent assistant. And that intelligent assistant can listen to a call in real time and suggest, not to the customer, but the support rep, what information needs to be shared with the customer, what further information they might want as a result that they haven't even asked for. But they're going to ask for it. They're going to have to call back for it because this information is based on lots of other customers that are in the exact same situation as this customer. And even better, it'll start to suggest the products and services that might be better suited for this customer. Mm-hmm. So it's really, the AI isn't just to deal directly with the customer. The AI can truly support the agent who is supporting the customer.
Okay, and given the proliferation of all of these tools and technologies, are we looking for different skills in agents today compared to, say, a decade ago?
Well, it's sure, you always have to train people on all the equipment they're going to use. So let's talk about the different skills. If somebody has a great written skill, obviously a good support person is a good support person, but let's say they excel in written skills, you might slide them over into the chat, the email, the social media support. And that's so because that's a skill they have. If they don't have that written skill, then they should strictly stay on the live support, talking to a customer. And I think that's important as you're hiring people today. You need to be able to hire support people that have great communication skills, both written and oral skills, because that's the way service is done. It used to be just pick up the phone, call a company, and now there's so many different ways that support is being delivered that we have to have good people doing it, and so in that sense they have to have that skill. But any type of software, and forever you have to train them on the latest and greatest, and any company that's using software from 5 or 10 years ago is probably using very outdated software and not taking advantage of what is capable, and probably not giving their customers the best experience they could possibly have.
Mm-hmm. Okay, and so on that point then, what do you think are the one or two essential things that contact center executives need to be looking at to survive and thrive over the next couple of years?
So, great question. Here's what I hear a lot of. Number one, they need to make sure that their agents are very well equipped to deliver the answers that they need. That's making sure they hire the right people to begin with, they train them properly, and they give them the tools to do so. That's number one, I think, on the list. Number two, they need to be looking at the technologies that are going to enhance the experience for the customer beyond the interaction with the agents. So chatbot, machine learning, those technologies are very important, and really depending upon the type of business you're in, if you're not already doing that, you're probably really far behind. Today you can look at, and I know I'm going to skew off a little bit here on the question, but today you can look at even a small company can take a look at using a chatbot to support the lowest, most basic level requests that customers have. And if you think about this, and by the way, very inexpensively, we're talking a few $1,000s, not tens of thousands of dollars to invest in technology. No, we're talking about a very small investment and a small monthly fee. Software as a service is crossed over into the whole, all the companies that are providing chatbots and that type of thing. So, now I want to get back to the question that you'd asked. So I think executives need to be looking at what tools are out there that will enhance the experience, and recognize that if we can eliminate a small amount, and actually they're not so small, a number of these support requests coming in are for lower level functions, and you can make your support people 10 to 15% or even higher more efficient and effective and productive because you're eliminating the lower level tasks that a machine can do. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So I think we need to be taking a look at that. What are we doing to make our agents more productive in the terms of software, in the terms of giving them, the chat bot as a front end, that's where the customer comes in and enters in and hopefully saves time. That way you're able to have your support agents working at higher levels and supporting people with more complicated and more important functions for them. So the last thing is, I think all these executives need to look at is, are they asking the right questions? Because machine learning is really important. So what are the data points you really need to have in order to give your customer the best experience? Because too much data is really it makes it difficult. That's why they called it big data in the first place, because it's like really big and complicated. So we need to make sure that as we're driving by the way, that's another big thing. Personalization is we're driving that personalized, better experience for the customer, better response times, information, that's available to the rep through artificial intelligence, listening to the conversation, all that. It really, what we're trying to do at the end of the day is we're trying to create a better experience for the customer, a better experience for the rep. That's really important. And, when that happens, you create confidence and trust for the customer to want to do business with you again.
Thanks for listening to the CX Files podcast. Please tell your friends and contacts about the podcast by sharing it using the hashtag #CXFiles. And if you can leave a comment and rating on iTunes, that would be fantastic. Thank you in advance. I'm always open to ideas and suggestions, so if you want topics explored or covered on the podcast, you can find me using @MarkHillary on Twitter. That's Hillary with 2 L's. Or just search LinkedIn for Mark Hillary and CX Files. Thank you and see you next time.